group. We opened it as an issue and talked about maybe Communitas and Sampo working on it together with some soft gov and of course all of the stewards. So now is the time for us to discuss how do you see the TEC? What's next for the TEC? What do you see for the working group you're contributing to specifically? And we can talk about this in terms of like the next few quarters, right? Maybe Q3, Q4 especially. And what do you see for the TEC as a whole? So I'd say we can get really specific and add some specific dates and targets. And maybe we'll just give a few people a little more time to join. Okay. And I'm going to grab let this draft that Gideon shared as well, because it has a lot of sort of this in it. Cool. Okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll get started as we are. I don't know if anyone else is joining us. So I will love to pass to Livia, you first, to get us started. What do you think is next for the TEC? What do you think specifically for SoftGov? And then, I think this is redundant. And then maybe be specific with some dates and whatnot. We don't really have timers. I mean, I'll set a timer for maybe, well, there's so few of us. So maybe, 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. And the floor is yours, Livia.
Thanks, Tim. What is next for the TEC, I think, is getting closer and closer to our mission and really be the place where token engineers find resources. They find resources of all kinds, right? Financial resources, intellectual resources, people resources, a place for connecting, developing projects as well, like having this as a very fertile ground for token engineers to be not only the ones that are already working on projects, but also in this partnership with Token Engineering Academy that I see very important to help us. We can help in this ladder of how people become token engineers. So Angela was talking yesterday, she's thinking about having with the new bachelor course now, having some type of engagement opportunity where if people come to the TEC and share some of the learnings they're having in the TE Academy course, that they earn a badge. So there is a tight engagement there with people who are becoming token engineers and the ones who are already token engineers. So yeah, I think something that Griff talked in the other day too, like how can we bring awareness of the importance of token engineering, and that maybe is more of a comms perspective, like people understanding that if we had token engineering very accessible, something like Luna wouldn't have happened, and how can we prevent this type of things and create the awareness that the space isn't so safe right now, that many of the things we're playing with is like we're playing with fire, and how can we bring more grounding to that. So I think there's a lot that feels like it's incubated and it's very like in an atomic form that could expand so much, and this outreach is so important, I think, and based on the retrospective action, I think is something that feels very nice that it's starting to be developed, and Gideon is doing great work with that. And for SoftGov, I think, well, my biggest ambition is to have this ecosystem DAO health dashboard somehow. So we're starting to look into that in the
Just
guild.
finish though.
Sorry, yeah, we're starting to look into that in the guild, governance guild, and Andy is jumping in. So, and he's a great data scientist. So I think we can look into things that are great for all DAOs, and that has been the purpose of the governance guild. But that will also it will make it possible the health dashboard for the TEC. I think that if SoftGov can handle that, then I think it could like end the working group and become more of a discussion place.
Cool. So a bunch of people have hopped on, and I'm just going to go through the beginning again. So in this last sprint retrospective, we discussed how boosting token holder and contributor confidence with an outline of plans for what's next. In the sprint planning, we sort of decided that it would be a joint action between Communitas and Sampo. Of course, Gideon has this message that he's already drafted for token holders, but to get a really round perspective, I'd also like that to be the topic of or I thought it would benefit us to be the topic of our council today. So the question is, I think there's gonna be like 3 minutes, I'll set a timer for 3 minutes. What is next for the TEC? What do you see for the working group you're contributing to personally? And be specific, add some dates, add some quarters. Let's try to have some forth thinking come out of this. Go ahead, Livia, and pass if you don't mind.
Pass to Mitch.
You pass it to me? Cool. Yeah, so rewards. The biggest thing on my plan is to incorporate some of the features, improve praise accuracy, and start selling this thing to other orgs. So that's my biggest goal right now for the rewards working group. And then obviously, like within the TEC itself, just like the regular stuff. So like making sure that we're doing quantification sessions, that rewards are going out, and that like bugs are being worked on, and that the whole thing is stable and smooth. So I think that's kind of my goal for the rewards. I understand that there's the experiment happening with Sampo, and we'll see how that's going, but I can't say that's definitively on my radar.
What about just your own visions, not necessarily the ones that are being outlined in Sampo?
For the rewards or in general?
So all of TEC, and then specifically to you talked about specifically to the working group, but maybe higher level, bigger picture too.
I mean, start defining products and services that we can sell. That's my thing. So I'm like, okay, Gravity DAO, team, like with the comms, and the reward system. I mean, you can start doing like token engineering and like commons consultancy. Like there's all these avenues, but it's a question of like putting in the bandwidth to actually do them, and then actually having people that are willing to like pay for this stuff. So, twofold. And hopefully I hit all the points there. I can pass it to Durgadas.
Sorry, I'm not a steward, but yeah, I just gonna keep, I'm trying to bring, different people like 40 Acres DAO into the Common Stack and TEC groups, so that there can be some more diversity and the stuff that we have, like we were talking at the beginning, like TEC should be kind of a model for other DAOs, and I'm really trying to sort of push that and get a lot of them to do trusted seed, and they're having all kinds of problems like a lot of what we're doing could solve. So I'm out there, working actively with them and promoting what we're doing over here. So yeah, I do a lot of meetings with them. So hopefully, they can participate more, and they could use some help with their token engineering as well. So anybody see those guys around, kindly welcome them, Russ and Vino and these guys. So Ugo, so on. So that's it for me.
Cool. Is there somebody you feel compelled to pass to?
Oh, has Griff gone?
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, thanks, Durgadas, and good to see you, man. Yeah, I have lots of ideas, of course. I agree with Mitch on this one on products. I feel like having a few TEC products is important. And, one thing that's interesting, like the reward system praise is not a product of the TEC. TEC is kind of a free guinea pig of the, first user of the reward system, but that's like, I don't remember seeing any TEC proposals passing to support all the people who are working there, unfortunately. So we'll need other products. We'll need products like I really love what Gideon is talking about like Connect being a matchmaking, like an intake form for token engineers and building out that system. I think if we can help people get hired, we can create job boards. I mean, we're going to discover lots of ways to make income generation out of that. I also think selling NFTs, like Gideon and I were spitballing a cool NFT like TEC Hall of Fame thing where they could use an augmented bonding curve and put NFTs against it and create so that we'd have liquidity for NFTs and also curry more favor with the token engineers of the world. So that would be really interesting. And I think like just making sure that we have like 1 or 2 projects at most that we're really focusing on and pushing in those products, unless there's other teams that come in and they're like, hey, we have this product that can bring sustainability to TEC. I think narrowing our focus will be really important so that we can not get too distracted by, oh, butterfly, oh, let's do this, oh, let's just abandon that when we don't have the resources, really focus our energy. As far as working groups that I'm in, it's really Sampo, and I kind of just do the leftover tech stuff that needs to be done. There isn't really a whole lot there. I mean, it would be really cool to figure out how to get reputation system, like a reputation system into through the reward system so that we can have more, reputation influenced voting through conviction voting and other systems, and even just snapshot, because I really don't. Yeah, I feel like that's something we're really missing, and we lost our quadratic voting, and that's kind of sad. Yeah, and so if there was like push or demand for pushing that direction and funding from the TEC to go that direction, then we could kind of figure out how we would scope it and what we could do there. And I would love to support that effort if that came about. And that's probably about it. Did I miss any part of this, Tam?
Did you miss any part of this council so far, you mean?
No, what is next? The 3 questions.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. What is next for the TEC? What do you see for the working group you're contributing to specifically? And then, if we could be specific, maybe throw some target dates if you have them in mind already.
Gideon would be better with the target dates. He has a nice roadmap for the stuff. I assume that there's no target dates for anything else that I mentioned that he wouldn't know. But yeah, I'll throw it over to Wonka.
Thank you, Griff. In Gravity, since our first funding proposal, our intention has been to work with the aims of becoming a more independent organization. And right now we are designing the page. We are also talking about possible discords, offerings, and our idea is to become a sustainable organization that was born from the TEC, but that then it's an independent organization. But to that, I think that we may need to pass one other proposal right now. Yeah, we hope to only submit two, and I think uh, even if we don't win the Commons prize, that we will try to follow the Commons design and design our own bonding curve. And I see the TEC in a midterm period, opening the space for new people and new projects to come and benefit from the commons. I really resonated with what we talked last week about not getting stagnated with the same projects and the same people, but like giving the opportunity, the space for new ideas to come. That's how I see the TC, and rotation. Rotation is always important. And I'll pass it to Gideon.
Thanks, Monka. So I feel like I'll break it into like short term, longer term. I feel like in the short term, things are going to get a little bit uncomfortable. Like we're a little bit late out the gate in terms of thinking about revenues and building demand for the TC token. And so and we're kind of, the sample work is starting to really build right now, but summer is coming, right? So it's going to be, there's going to be this period where it's going to feel like, we're not doing enough. And so I think that's going to be, there's just going to be some natural pressure there, and we're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable as we see the common pool funds starting to drop, right? But I do feel like that discomfort is actually good. Like there's a constraint there that's like, it's like the pressure of a diamond. It's gonna force us to really focus on what the essence of this community is, what the essence of this commons really is. And I don't know what, we're going to be doing a lot of work on that in terms of like defining what that is, as a community. But to me, it does seem like expertise, token engineering expertise is at the core of it. And that it's around, there's like knowledge, token engineering knowledge, and then token engineering people, right? And it's like a lot of the services are going to kind of like spin around those two core assets. And so, we have so much opportunity. There's going to be great things that are going to emerge. I'm so confident of that. But it's going to take us a little while to define that. And so we just have to have faith that we're going to build the momentum to get to that stuff. But it's going to be a little bit rocky, I think, in the short term as we get there. As for Sampo, this summer we're going to try to take advantage of the lull of activity to do a lot of just getting some plans in place. But we're also going to move forward on a few things pretty quickly. So Tam's been super excited about this. We're not even calling it matchmaking anymore. It's more like how do you do intake for consulting projects, token engineering consulting projects, and really just try to get something quick out the door so that we can learn, we can start learning. So that's the first priority. And then the other one is the thing that Griff mentioned, which is this idea for a token engineering Hall of Fame NFT collection, which we think maybe it'll raise some money. But the one thing that I'm pretty sure it will do is help to build connections with, strengthen the connections with existing token engineering folks that we already know, but then also expand it to the people who don't even think of themselves as token engineers and bring them into the fold. And so I'm really excited about this. I think that there's lots of potential. Working with Comms and Chewy on this is going to be super critical. And I think it could help build our Twitter following, really strengthen the network there. So super excited about that. And then the last thing I'll mention is that I think that as a community, there's a lot of terminology we use internally without thinking about it, things like shelling point and even token engineering, that are just not terms that people outside of this community really understand. And so part of the job for us in the short term is going to be to really be able to explain those things to the next wave of people, and that's going to be critical to the fundraising that we do starting in the fall. So that's that's kind of the priorities. You know, the first ones are in like July and August, getting those things defined, and then in September is when we really hit and really start some of these campaigns and actually doing some of the fundraising requests. And I just put the proposal up for funding for the Sampo season 1 up on in the forum. So okay, I will pass to Chewy.
Thanks, Gideon. Where do I see the TEC in the next 6 months? Let's say. I feel that maybe we underestimate what risks or decisions we already took. I feel that there's like so many like dice rolling at the moment, like the T fundamental scores, the consilience library, the proposal inverter, just Sampo by itself as a working group. I feel that there are many things that we still we are yet to see like the results of, and I feel that it's gonna bring like a lot of exciting times to the TEC. However, when I come to like the less optimistic side of it, that's when I see like the working groups. I totally agree with Gideon. There are some uncomfortable times coming, and I feel that comms is also gonna be like in the spotlight. So for many like decisions, because we need to just like take some steps back in the next 6 months, I would say, and just reevaluate how we are providing services like to the TEC by itself, and how can we just make more efficient collaborations with like the one that we have with the Token Engineering Academy. There are some amazing results of the last 6 months, but I feel that there is still like a long way to go. And this context is going to require like a lot of just coordination and organization capabilities from the team, and taking sometimes like just tough decisions. So I feel that the next 6 months are going to be like a lot of that. But yeah, I'm also gonna I'm also very excited for the way contributors are starting like to get how they can do better in around communication. So yeah, before any other collaborations, I feel that this just like action and just like this like taking steps back phase is necessary for moving on and having a better idea of how to do it. I'll pass it to Nate. I don't know if you went already.
I haven't yet. So yeah, what's next for the TEC? I think is just kind of leaning into the initiatives that we do have for the Stewards working group in particular. I think my big focus right now is just trying to get as much documentation as possible on both the cultural and technical components within the TEC, as well as helping these new initiatives document and try to help with comms and the messaging. I see that as being time-wise is month and a half, and trying to get as much documentation out there as possible, trying to figure out what the best medium for that is. And then outside of that, to use Griff's metaphor, I've been butterfly chasing some different ideas around TEC products. I think there are a lot of things that we can do that I think are in high demand that people are willing to pay for. They're kind of unconventional, but I think that I would like to discuss them with people when the time is appropriate and the setting is appropriate. So yeah, outside of that, I will pass it on to Mitch.
I think I went already.
True. Maybe pass to Zach.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, I mean, for me, like one of the things like is having difficulty on our economy is like we have an economy around public goods, and then the income is like the countries got taxes, but we got donations, or the Hajj, not so much. I feel like like with Sampo, or I don't know, like we really need to start to getting some revenue. And then for transparency, like the way I see transparency is like just a service, like it's doing to the TC. I don't feel like transparency is going to generate any revenue to the TC, like never. Yeah, it's just a service, and service you have to pay for them, because like I feel like if Bear, for example, starts recording for another DAO, like the DAO is going to pay Bear, and that's it. Like I don't feel like Bear should give some money to or anyone, go some money back to the TC just because they're doing a task they're also doing here. That's something I
Just,
also
I
see
want to say
with Gravity. Mm-hmm.
this is less about generating revenue, more just about like the vision for maybe transparency working group. What's ahead? What's next for the transparency working group, rather than how does transparency?
Yeah, I mean, the goal with transparency is like just foster like mutual monitoring in the community, and yeah, that's it. Like having all the documentation and just facilitating, make it more easy for the community to mutual monitor each other. And then like I would love like the TC funding, more initiative, like Sam at some point was talking about osmotic funding. If he would building it on the TC, then it's a product of the TC, and then it doesn't also generate any revenue to the TC, but it generates value. Like, oh look, this tool is built by them. Because that's a public good, then anyone can use it. But again, like what I was saying at the beginning, like I feel like the problem we're facing right now is like we are building public goods, and when you're building public goods, like people just use them normally, and they like if someone is using the dashboard or anything we create, like they will be thankful. But I'm using OBS, I never pay anything for using OBS, and there's people working there. Yeah, I mean, again, like I feel like like our priority should be like how to monetize the commons at some point. Maybe maybe like the commons is going, like I see like going longer and longer and longer. Less time will be less money, so less every time like the token holders will be more tight with which proposals they will be passing. And at this point, like when there is not enough money, I feel like the only things being funded will be like the public goods. And if there is some volume, at some point there will be like some, and always there will be like money in the common pool. Even if someone sells, then they're paying an exit tribute, or someone is buying, and there's always going to be some money there, unless we do something like using tau voting and get all the money away because there's so few people. I don't know, but yeah, like I feel like our goal should be like funding public goods and get a name, in outside. Yeah, I'll pass it to you, Tom.
Okay, maybe Ver. Sorry, Vi.
Yeah, sure. So I feel like it's more towards saying what our mission is. I was becoming a shelling point, and I still believe that it would be really beneficial if we focus on that aspect a lot. Like we have more educational parties, we get more people involved into the system, and the TEC reaches a place where we are able to fund more external projects. And right now, I think we're funding a lot of the internal working groups, and I feel like it would be a really great jump if we can, fund more things that are going on outside. I really feel great about the TEA and the engagement that we're going to get from them. That's being discussed right now. So the working groups I usually work with are rewards and communitas. So for rewards, I'm really excited about praise becoming stable. We're planning to release a version 1 that is completely stable in around 1st July. and I'm really hopeful that then the praise development can move away from the TEC, and the rewards working group is like more uh, quieter, I guess. It slows down a little bit because then it's just the day in day out. We're just dishing out the rewards. It's not a big deal. For commuters, I'm really excited about the new discussions we've been having about getting better at onboarding people. Especially, there's a different types of people that are joining in, and I feel like right now we're not utilizing the buckets they fall into. We're not able to help them properly, and I'd like to see this gap getting resolved. uh, and about the funding issue that we've been talking about for a while. Now, I really believe that it would be really great if we create funds from TE, and services or products that we're making are especially things that benefit TE, and it's not just products that we're making. And the way I see it, it would be really great if the working groups start making products, and they're doing products and they somehow sustain themselves. And the TCs, the way TC is funding them, decreases. And that's something that I would like to see in the future. And around next year, it will be really great if people see TEC as a as a place where you can outsource your decisions for your DAO, or you can outsource decisions for distributing funding. Like, can we make a community that can decide what is good for TE, and then we go to organizations that want to distribute funds to TE, and we ask for grants, and then we distribute them to projects. And about personal roadmaps, I'd be really excited to get the community onboarding bot. I'd like to get some tracking systems inside it and make it a little bit better. So my plan is to launch it somewhere around November, maybe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's just one more thing. What I said about creating funds from TE. So it would be really great if we can so for an example would be the TEC is great at the documentation. We've seen it time and time again. We've done a great job at this. What we could do is like approach TE projects that struggle with documentation, and there's a lot of them. Even libraries, there's a lot of lack of communication going on there, and they can outsource those things to the TEC. And I'd like to see that kind of value exchange happening instead of just a product that is being sold. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd pass it to Nick.
Hi. So for my ideas on what's next for the TEC, more public goods being created to help people design their communities or economies or systems. Less reliance on calls for coordination, and possibly archiving for the TEC, like a way to collect the knowledge dropped on the channels, and more opportunities for people to practice token engineering in their contributions or participation within the TEC. Perhaps other ways of minting TEC tokens than just paying money, and more regenerative workflows for TEC participants. Sorry if I'm going too fast, I'll slow down a bit. Having as many people knowledgeable on token engineering as possible, even if not a practicing token engineer. And then what I see for the working groups that I contribute to for Mega, continuing with alternative workflow experiments, designing the library system that enables value stocks such as connection, novelty, transdisciplinarity to be experienced. And then some more focus on ethics research initiatives as well, and more collaboration with other working groups. And then for labs, creating more opportunities to learn or practice token engineering skills, or at least create space for people to work on their personal token engineering experiments or research projects, and helping as many people in the community as possible to become knowledgeable on token engineering, again, even if not as a practicing token engineer. I pass to Mert.
Thank you, Nick. So, what I see, like, I like to say emphasis on product and services of the feature of TC. So, I'd love to see how TC brings value to itself and also as like public goods through providing services and products such as reward system being used by other communities, or like becoming like more token engineering service hub. Also, I'd love to see how this will tie to token engineering commons token. So can we explore how these can be tied to token utility and all those other discussions? So maybe our token will be something more than our ABC token, but maybe tied to a service token, tied to related to something something related to our products and services. So I'd love to see and work on it. Related to the working groups I'm working at, for the Omega, I would envision Omega to be an intellectual hub where people who is interested in token engineering ethics can bring their own research and creating a like kind of a framework, so that when people come with ideas, we can nurture that idea through space and providing like valuable outcomes from that research, and signal our community and all in general the bigger token engineering community that these practices can have different results, and how do we make them more resilient and morally responsible. And the other thing is that for educating people, creating more resources, creating more like published things, and for example, like Consilience Library, creating more resources and knowledge, basically. So that's what I envision, actually. I would like to pass it on.
Is there anyone? Is there Bear? Oh, Bear didn't go yet.
Yeah, Bear.
Oh, and we've had some new joiners. Okay, so.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So I'll try to be quick. So in a really general way, in the bigger scope I can think about, I see the development of the TEC like in two ways. One way, I think it's this thing about figuring out how are we gonna become the shilling point for token engineering, and it relates with all the products or services we could offer. And I'm also thinking about how do you monetize public goods, right? How do you monetize the commons? I think that we're used to like taking the example of like traditional organizations, and I'm pretty sure there must be a difference between the two on how to do things. So I think it would be important to figure out that line or that differentiation, and truly find like really interesting business models that can work to become sustainable, but also that are like ethical and really aligned with the values of the TEC and to the values of a commons. And on the other way, I also see the TEC development as a DAO, because I think there's a lot of work there too about how we work and how we organize ourselves in these different type of organization that it's never been done. So I think there's also a lot of work there in the way we do things. And talking about the working groups I participate in, yeah, so for Sampo, I think it's exactly that, like figuring out business models that are actually aligned to what we're pursuing. For Gravity, that's another thing. I think it's gonna be really interesting, like figuring out what's gonna be the relationship between, like the mother DAO with like future children DAOs. How is that gonna work? How it's gonna work in terms of service, in terms of people, in terms of money. I think that's gonna be really interesting, and a conversation that is definitely coming up really soon, I think. For transparency, I think it's also really interesting. I think this relates with how DAOs work and how DAOs structure and function. So how is transparency gonna have to evolve so it can keep up with the demand of transparency that we will need if we want to maintain, like this type of organization? I think it has to scale, and we need to be prepared to be able to handle that growth. So yeah, I think that's what I would say, and I think that's gonna happen, like during this year, 2022, a lot of those conversations. So I'll just pass it to Edu.
Sorry, I'm late and I am missing out the context. Will you tell me which is the question?
Yes, absolutely. So, our retrospective action item from last week was to boost token holder and contributor confidence with outlines of plans for what's next. And so I know that in the sprint planning, we discussed this being a collaborative effort between Communitas and Sampo, but of course, it's a good time to get the perspective of all the stewards and active community members who are joining the council. So what is it that you see next for the TEC, sort of big vision? And what about the specific working group that you're contributing to? And if you have dates and targets in mind, feel free to be specific.
So this is like a foreseen of, okay. So I will say that, tricky one. I will say that regarding this, the question of confidence and stakeholders in the TEC and how do I see it in the future, I will say that it will be interesting to see how all the endeavors that started as working groups sort of scale as a collective. Like, I think that we are scaling so far as working groups and we are achieving certain milestones as a group, but we have yet seen the results of the cohesiveness of the different working groups like working together. And I feel like for me, what will be interesting is to see that scaling coming together. And as a milestone and things that I'm looking forward from Communitas working group and SoftGov, I'm looking forward for SoftGov conversations about inclusivity, race, and so on, and how we can, the next layer of the cultural layer, the next step for the cultural layer. And then in Communitas, and I guess also with Sampo, is this a strategy that it's better focused, and it's more, we already know who are the people who are part of our community. So I think we can narrow the scope of the efforts that we are coming forward. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents on this rant. Back to you, Tim.
Cool. And so we have some people who don't usually join our call, so maybe we just pause for a moment and welcome them. Welcome Epan1, Fun Tam. Oh, it's like the better version of me. And Maki Zai. If you want to take a moment and introduce yourself, this is a conversation we're having about the future of the TEC, but I'll pass it to Epan1. If you want to take a moment and introduce yourself, you're welcome to. Of course, you don't have to if you don't want to. And okay, they've all gone. I scared them away. Oh no. See, I'm not the fun Tam. But I guess it's my turn now to go. So I'd say, so for stewards, I can't take the notes on this, unfortunately, if somebody doesn't mind doing it for me. For the stewards, I would say it's, when we are 15 stewards, we are 12 to 14 working groups now. We're just a different size organization than we were even just 6 months ago. Forget about a year ago. So I think the evolution of stewardship, the evolution of coordination, like the time is now. In some ways, it's an amazing gift that the stewards funding didn't pass, because it really forces the issue for us to decide what's most important as stewards and what service the stewards provide to the community, and align what stewards' role is with the value that we provide. And so I think the evolution, I know that Nate is going to be able to work with this on me a little bit too. But I think that we can come up with a good proposal for the evolution of stewards as a working group, and then have a funding model that goes with it. I think it's just going to be radically different than what it is now. I think that, the stewards should always have been sort of like the scrum of Scrum, and the coordination layer should be in each working group. But we've been trying to coordinate the working groups and the steward scrums. And I think that a lot of the coordination layers have to be, individually in each working group, and then roll up into a higher level coordination of stewards with this many working groups and this many stewards. I think it's the only way forward. And then I would say, also there's like stewards who are very active, and then stewards who show up once or twice a week. And it's sort of like differentiating between the different levels of stewardship and participation in the TEC, while still retaining the varying perspective and diversity that we all bring, but doing it in a way that is more commiserate with the amount of effort that's put into the TEC. So there's that too. And then I would say for the Communitas, I think Communitas has the opportunity to be the onboarding leader of DAOs, to set the example and to show other DAOs how it's done. I think, to Edu's credit, he's been requested in other communities to help onboarding practices in other communities. And I think that's a testament to the effort that he's put into onboarding. But I think there's something more, and I think there's something bigger for Communitas there too, to develop repeatable protocols that are easy to follow. And I think that can be a really, really interesting, like public good that comes out of Communitas. And then for the TEC, I am all in on this token engineering intake. Being able to quantify, like, the struggle that the token engineering consulting companies have is this layer. How can you help a client ask the right questions so that the organization knows whether they can actually service that ask or not? And I've had a few conversations already. I think that there's so many benefits to us being this. Oh shoot! I'm so sorry. I didn't even time myself. I'm just going. Shoot. I'm sorry. I should have asked somebody for help on that too. I am so all in on that. I honestly think that it's like it is like we are token engineering. You come to TEC for token engineering. If anyone needs a request for token engineering, this is the first stop that people come to. This is the Schelling point for token engineering, token engineers, but also token engineering services. And if we have an alliance with different partners that we can work with, Longtail Financial, Block Science, Protocol Labs, Token Economics DAO. I mean, we can create an alliance of organizations that we work with and provide this first layer intake for them, bringing their token engineers into the token engineering commons, and also training our TEC folk into becoming these token engineers through the shadowing of these projects that we're connecting. I can go on that for a lot longer. And I won't. I'll spare everyone because I'm sure I'm over time now. And I just want to say welcome again, Mackie Z. You're in the Stewards Council, and we're so happy that you've joined us. Do you want to take one moment and introduce yourself? And you are under no obligation to. You're welcome just to hang out and listen in if you want. Okay, and welcome Xerklev. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Yeah, welcome to the Stewards Council. Would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself? You're very welcome to if you like, and you're under no obligation if you would not like. Okay. All right.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
I see you unmuted, but no audio is coming through. All right, so we are, I feel like we've reached a good stopping point. We have 7 minutes left. I think this was super interesting. I just wonder, it's maybe a good use of our time now. I don't know, Gideon, you just shared this for feedback. It's related to what the retrospective is to outline plans for what's next. I don't know how helpful this session was for you to garner new ideas and or perspectives from stewards and active community members. And if you'd want to take some time, 2-3 minutes of the end of this meeting to talk about this draft. Do you want to do that? I know I'm putting you on the spot, Gideon.
No problem, Tam. Yeah, I think that probably the best thing would be for people to just dive into the document. Even if we just use the rest of the time, like people can dive into the document, or you can do it later today. But I'm hoping to get this done by like next week, early next week, and then probably work with Edu to like figure out the distribution plan for this. One idea.
Where's the link?
It's in the Stewards chat channel.
Thanks.
Text channel. So yeah, feel free to just jump in, add some comments on this. One of the things that we've been thinking about, this is part of the Communitas kind of next season proposal, is some type of communication system for token holders. So this might be a great incentive for us to like figure that out sooner rather than later. And maybe this is part of the token utility piece, like some of the initial wave is that this is, this goes to token holders. So anyway, so it'd be great to get your feedback on this. Could be high level, could be details, could be, don't spend too much time on doing detailed edits though. This is intentionally rough right now. Didn't want to get too far down the road before I got feedback. So I'll just be quiet at this point. Is it okay, Tam, just use the rest of it for people to just...
Yeah, it's absolutely okay. And maybe also who dropped in this, Vitalik wants to share their thoughts and thinking about it. This quote, contradiction between my desire to see more diversity and interesting cultures and my realization that maintaining a culture that's distinct from the mainstream seems to often require some kind of insanity or artificial barrier or similar thing that I ideologically dislike. Who dropped that in here? Anyone? No one wants to claim it?
I didn't, but I shared another tweet that I liked today, where he says, peacekeeping and coordination seeking needs to be an explicit effort rather than peace being an assumed default. I shared that also in the Stewards.
Cool, thank you. All right, so with these last 4 minutes, anyone who wants to please hop into this letter and share any thinking that you want about it. And I'll be a big help to Gideon and Sampo and Eduardo and our token holders. And so then that's the end of this call. Thanks for everyone's time today.
Review the message to TC tokens and update your slides. Update your slides. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, everyone.